There is a war we do not see but feel, a war not fought with guns nor armies but with thoughts, doubts, and illusions. This is the silent war on your mind. And it is the most dangerous battle of all, because its battlefield is invisible and the enemy wears your face. But hear me, if there is a war, there is also the chance for victory. Victory not through conquest of others, but through the integration of the self. Your mind is the most powerful instrument you possess. It is the seat of your perceptions, the interpreter of your reality, and the birthplace of every dream you've ever dared to imagine. Yet, paradoxically, it is also where the seeds of self-doubt, fear, and illusion take root. The very thing that can lift you to greatness can also drag you into the depths of despair. Not because it is inherently your enemy, but because it can be held hostage by forces you do not even see. Most people walk through life believing every thought that enters their consciousness. They mistake mental noise for truth, anxiety for intuition, and social conditioning for wisdom. They do not question the inner critic that whispers, "You're not good enough," or the fear that says, "Stay small, stay safe." But I ask you, whose voice is that? Is it truly yours? Or is it the lingering echo of a parent's judgment, a teacher's limitation, a culture's expectation? There is a war happening inside, and it is a quiet one. No explosions, no alarms, just the slow erosion of your true self by narratives you've never examined. These are not just thoughts. They are programmed responses, internalized shadows, and emotional ghosts from your past. And over time, if left unchallenged, they form a prison so subtle, you forget you are even confined. A mind held hostage doesn't scream, it complies. It adjusts, it rationalizes its chains. It builds a life that looks acceptable on the outside while dying slowly on the inside. This is the silent suffering of the modern soul, to have unlimited inner potential, and yet be ruled by invisible masters. To smile in public while quietly battling private wars no one sees. But there is hope, not in escape, but in awareness. The moment you begin to witness your thoughts, instead of identifying with them, the chains begin to crack. When you observe the negative narrative without judgment, you create space. And in that space, something miraculous happens. The authentic self begins to emerge. Not the self shaped by survival, but the self born for expression, expansion, and wholeness. You must become the liberator of your own mind. You must interrogate the voices that shame you, the patterns that confine you, the beliefs that keep you small. Ask, where did this come from? Who gave me this? And does it still serve who I am becoming? The mind is not the enemy, but left unguarded, it can become the throne on which your inner saboteur sits. It is time to reclaim that throne, to stand in your own authority, to think your own thoughts, to feel your own truths. This is not an act of defiance. It is an act of becoming, of returning to the core of who you are, beyond the noise, beyond the fear, beyond the inherited masks. In this war, you don't win by fighting harder. You win by awakening. You don't overpower the enemy. You outgrow it. And when you do, you'll realize the mind, once your prison, is now your greatest ally. Not because it changed, but because you did. Would you like me to expand the next keynote in a similar style? There is a part of you that you do not show the world. A part you hide, suppress, deny, and sometimes even forget. It is not gone. It waits. It watches from the darkness within, and it grows in silence. This is the shadow, not evil, not wrong, but unaccepted. And the longer you ignore it, the more power it gains over your life. Carl Jung warned us that what we refuse to face within ourselves will control us from the depths. It will shape our relationships, our choices, our self-image, and we will be blind to it. We will say, "This is just who I am," without realizing that what we call personality may actually be protection. That what we call preference might be fear. That what we call fate may be the long arm of the shadow, directing our steps from behind the curtain. The shadow contains everything you have exiled from your conscious identity. Your anger, your ambition, your jealousy, your sexuality, your pain, all the things you were told were unacceptable or unlovable. But repression does not erase. it simply displaces. The emotions you do not process become the behaviors you do not understand. The pain you do not heal becomes the pattern you repeat. And then, without warning, the shadow breaks through. In the snap of anger you regret, the sabotage of your own success, the attraction to people who wound you, the avoidance of opportunities that require your power. And still you wonder, why do I keep doing this? The answer is not out there. It is in the part of you have yet to claim. You see, the shadow is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It carries your unlived life, the energy, power, and truth that were once rejected for survival. Every part of you that was denied still longs to be integrated, not because it wants to destroy you, but because it wants to complete you. It doesn't want control, it wants acceptance. But if you refuse to meet it consciously, it will assert itself unconsciously. You will think you're making choices freely, but you're not. You're being pulled by the very thing you refuse to see. To reclaim your life, you must stop running from your shadow and begin a dialogue with it. Ask yourself, what parts of me have I disowned to be accepted? What truths do I silence to feel safe? This is the beginning of deep inner work. Not to become perfect, but to become whole. When you bring awareness to the shadow, it begins to soften. When you give it language, it begins to lose its grip. And when you give it a place in your story, it no longer needs to hijack your narrative. Freedom does not come from denying your darkness. It comes from owning it. Maturity is not the absence of shadow. It is the ability to hold your light and your darkness in the same breath, without shame. That is where power lies. That is where healing begins. So the question is no longer, do I have a shadow? The question is, am I willing to face it before it becomes my master? Because if you do not make peace with your shadow, you will serve it. And you won't even know you are kneeling. Would you like me to expand the next keynote as well? Comfort is seductive. It wraps around you like a warm blanket, whispering promises of safety, ease, and predictability. It tells you, stay here. You've done enough. Don't risk more. Don't reach too far. And because it feels good, even peaceful, you begin to believe it is good. But not all peace is progress. Not all stillness is growth. Sometimes, what feels like calm is simply quiet resignation. This is how comfort becomes a beautiful cage, ornate on the outside, numbing on the inside. You convince yourself that you are content, that you are satisfied, that you've found your place. But deep down, beneath the routines and distractions, your soul knows the truth. It knows when you are shrinking. It knows when you are settling. It knows when you've traded your potential for predictability. The tragedy is not that we fall into comfort. That is natural. The tragedy is that we stay there. We decorate our prisons with goals that don't challenge us, relationships that don't stretch us, and beliefs that don't evolve. We say, I'm fine, when in truth, we are simply familiar with our limits. What makes this cage so dangerous is that it rarely feels like one. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't scream. It just slowly drains your vitality, your passion, your hunger. You stop asking questions. You stop feeling wonder. You stop hearing the quiet voice that once called you towards something more. And why? Because growth demands discomfort. Becoming who you truly are requires a death. The death of who you used to be, of what used to feel safe. Every transformation begins with tension. Every breakthrough begins with uncertainty. The caterpillar does not become the butterfly without dissolving completely. Yet most of us want to change without discomfort. We want evolution without uncertainty. We want flight without the fall. But your soul did not come here to be comfortable. It came here to evolve, to express, to awaken. It came here to touch the edges of what's possible for you. And you cannot do that from the center of your comfort zone. Comfort tells you to avoid fear, but fear is not your enemy. It is your compass. Discomfort is not a sign something is wrong. It's a sign that something real is beginning. The goal is not to live a life free of discomfort, but to become someone strong enough to walk through it with grace and purpose. So ask yourself, is your life guided by your truth or by your fear? Are you growing, or are you simply managing decline with a smile? The cage of comfort is beautiful, yes. It's polished, familiar, and full of reasons to stay. But don't be fooled. Beauty can be a distraction. Familiarity can be a trap. And peace without growth is not peace. It is quiet despair. The door to the cage has always been open. You only need the courage to step through it. Shall I continue with the next keynote in the same style? There comes a time in every person's life when the outer world no longer satisfies the inner hunger. The applause fades. The roles become hollow. The masks begin to suffocate, and a subtle, undeniable yearning begins to rise. Not for more things, not for more approval, but for something deeper, something real, something true. This is the quiet call of the soul toward individuation, the journey to become who you truly are beneath all that you've been taught to be. Individuation is not a concept, it is an experience, a profound psychological and spiritual unfolding that pulls you away from imitation and toward authenticity. It is the sacred journey of separating from the collective noise, from family projections, from cultural expectations, not in rebellion, but in revelation. It is the realization that no one else can walk your path, because your path begins where others end. And like all heroic journeys, it does not begin in triumph, it begins in discomfort, in the realization that living someone else's life is a betrayal of your own. It often starts with a crisis, a depression, a loss, a relationship falling apart, or the sudden sense that everything you built has no meaning. That moment is not the end. It is the threshold. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open. To individuate is to descend into yourself, to explore the forgotten caverns of your own psyche, to meet the voices within you that you've ignored, suppressed, or misunderstood. It means confronting your shadow, embracing your unlived potential, and retrieving the lost parts of your soul. It means making peace with your past and rewriting the story you were told about who you are and what you are allowed to become. This journey demands courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it. It asks you to leave behind the safety of collective identity and walk into the wilderness of your own soul. At first, you will feel alone. But you are not alone. The archetype of the hero, the seeker, the wanderer, the mystic, lives in all of us. And when you answer this call, you activate something eternal within yourself. You step into a lineage of souls who have dared to wake up. Individuation does not mean isolation. It does not mean narcissism or selfishness. On the contrary, when you become whole within yourself, you become more capable of love, of service, of connection. You no longer love from lack. You love from overflow. You no longer perform. You express. You no longer conform. You radiate. This journey is not linear. It is a spiral, returning again and again to deeper truths, shedding layer after layer of what is not you. There is no final destination, only a continual becoming. And yet, with every step, you feel more real, more grounded, more alive. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to belong to yourself. And eventually, you discover that the treasure you were seeking in the world was always hidden within you. Individuation is not for the faint of heart. It is for those who refuse to live a life of quiet compromise. It is for those who are no longer willing to betray themselves for acceptance. It is for those who understand that to truly live, you must first truly know who is living within you. This is your hero's journey, not out there, but in here. The dragons you must slay are not other people. They are your fears, your patterns, your illusions. The sword you carry is awareness. The light you follow is intuition. And the prize is not gold, but wholeness. The unshakable peace that comes from being exactly who you are. Would you like the final keynote expanded as well? In a world where everyone is trying to become someone else, where trends dictate identity and external approval defines worth, the greatest act of rebellion, and the greatest source of power, is to become fully, unapologetically yourself. Not the version of you that pleases others, not the version that hides your edges to fit in, but the true self, the one that existed before the world told you who to be. This self is not constructed, it is uncovered. It has always been there. Beneath the conditioning, beneath the survival strategies, beneath the roles you've learned to play. It is the core of your being, the unshakable center that remembers your purpose, your strength, your sacred uniqueness. And in the silent war on your mind, the battle against fear, doubt, conformity, and distraction, this true self is your ultimate weapon. The world will offer you countless tools: logic, image, status, control. But none of them will protect you from the emptiness that comes from abandoning who you are. Because the real battle is not fought with tools. It is fought with truth, your truth. The deeper you know yourself, the less you can be manipulated. The clearer your values, the harder it is for others to define your worth. When you are rooted in your essence, you cannot be shaken by opinion, rejection, or failure. You become sovereign. But this weapon does not reveal itself easily. To wield it, you must go through fire. You must face the masks you've worn, the lies you've told yourself, the comfort zones that have quietly killed your potential. You must be willing to fall apart, to unlearn, to unravel the false layers until all that remains is something real. This is not a path for the faint-hearted. It is the path of those who want to be free more than they want to be liked. And the irony is, the more you embrace who you are, the more the world begins to respond. Not always with applause, but with alignment. Opportunities that match your soul begin to appear. People who see you, the real you, begin to show up. You stop chasing and you start attracting. Not because you're performing, but because authenticity has a frequency that nothing artificial can match. Your true self is not fragile. It is not broken. It is not missing. It is whole, and it has been waiting. Waiting for you to stop shrinking. Waiting for you to stop performing. Waiting for you to listen. And when you do, when you truly remember who you are, the silent war loses its grip. Because a mind aligned with the truth of the soul cannot be conquered. It does not bend to fear. It does not collapse under pressure. It does not settle for less than what it knows it deserves. You are not here to be a copy. You are not here to play small. You are here to embody the fullness of what you are. Not someday, but now. Not perfectly, but honestly. In a world that profits from your doubt, your clarity is a weapon. In a system that thrives on your distraction, your presence is a revolution. In a culture that tells you to be anyone but yourself, your authenticity is power. So remember this: you are not missing anything. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are only waiting to awaken what has always been within you. Your true self is not just your identity. It is your liberation. It is not just who you are. It is the force that nothing and no one can defeat. Would you like a complete transcript of the full speech with all expanded keynotes compiled together? So rise, not against the world, but for yourself. Every morning you choose awareness over distraction, truth over comfort, growth over repetition. You win a battle in the war for your mind. You were not meant to be controlled. You were meant to awaken. Let this be the day you begin.